Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Reddit Edit, where I edit people's Reddit questions. So somebody was asking, how would I keep a sign as a crossfade, but I only want the text. So for example, let's say we've got this here on this side. Let me just get rid of the other one for a sec. There we go. So we've got this sign, and then halfway through around here, they want to keep the subway text and have it transition to another scene, indicating like they're in the same city or something like that. It wouldn't be subway. This is just a random sign that I got that was kind of the same idea as the Reddit question that was asked. For them, it was more like a city sign, right? So you've got the city sign, and then it transitions while keeping the words of the city and transitioning to a neighborhood in that city type of thing. That's the scenario. So what we're going to do here is I've got two clips. The original person was asking, well, I'm going to find the exact same font, and I'm going to align it, and I'm going to track it, and I'm going to overlay it. And I was like, you don't need to do that. There's a much easier tool, and it is called the Luma key. The Luma key basically does like the same thing as a green screen, like the chroma key, but instead of using a color, it uses luminance, or the brightness levels, keeping anything that's bright and removing anything that's dark. And most signs have a very high contrast ratio. So you've got a very high contrast between the background of the sign and the lettering on the sign, because they're meant to be read very quickly, be easy to read and not have to take people's attention away from driving and so on. This one, the contrast ratio is not amazing. It's a light green on white, but we'll do these two as an example. So let's start with this one. This one's super easy, white on black. It's going to be ridiculous. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go into Fusion. In Fusion, I am going to just disconnect this and add a background, as I usually do. Make that transparent. And I'm going now to drive the media into the background. Excellent. Next, on the media, I'm going to add my Luma key. Luma key here. So we got our Luma key here, and it's already, as you can see, it's already done like a lot of the work. It's kept anything that's, bright based on its brightness levels and removed anything that was dark. Problem is, we got a lot of garbage around here. So what we're going to use is we're going to use a garbage mat. I'm going to grab a polygon, and I'm going to drive that into the garbage mat of the Luma key. What a garbage mat does is it says anything that's inside this shape, get rid of it. So I'm going to invert that garbage mat. So I'm going to come over here and invert it. So it'll do the opposite. I'm just going to go to my media. I'm going to go first frame. We could track and all that garbage, but we don't need to. So we're going to do this. I'm going to keep, maybe? Yeah, I'm going to keep that part too. All right, and that white line. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to stay, remove anything that's bright that we don't want. So we do that. I'm going to go to the middle. Actually, I'm going to go to the end. I'm going to adjust my mask. Like this, real quick. Oops, I'm going to click over here on modify only. So it'll stop me from accidentally creating new points, which can be problematic. I'm going to get right up to the edge here. Now I'm going to go to the middle. Does that look good? Nope. We need to get rid of that part because that's bright, so it might cause us issues. One of the problems we have is the S is right by the edge of that bright area, which is a bit of a problem. If it was a different shot, it would be a bit better. That's good. And that's good. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to go in the middle here. Again, we're just going to adjust it so we don't get any of that green. Like that. That's good. That's good. That's fine. Perfect. I'm going to go in the middle between the start and the middle. Yeah, that looks good to me. All right, so that's what we've got. Now, I've selected this, meaning, and I've inverted it, so the garbage mat is going to reject anything that's not inside here. And this is what we end up with. Now, because the sign was dark, and it keeps bright and removes darkness, it's actually really done 99% of the work already. The little thing is, this wasn't pure white, so you can see through it. If I go back to my background here, and I add some green, and I go here, you'll notice that there's green coming through. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our Luma here, and we are going to bring down the highs a bit. And you see that's removing a bit of that transparency, making it just a little bit brighter. Now we have a problem. We can see a little bit of the dark back here, so we're going to grab the lows and we're going to bring those up, and that'll make it disappear, you see? And that's looking good. I'm just going to add a touch of blur, soften up the edges a little bit. And we're going to expand the mask. Is it? No, retract. Sorry, we're going to retract that mask to cut in on the edges a bit to remove the dark outlines. And like if I bring it all the way in, you'll see it's cutting in. And if I go the opposite way, we're bringing back out. So there we go. And now we've only got the white text. If I go back to my background and remove that green, we now have that subway text isolated on its own. Just using the luminance of that part of the image. And a little garbage mask. A little garbage mask that we had to do like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 adjustments to. Super easy, super quick. Now, we want that to be on top of the footage until we transition to something else. So I'm going to bring back that footage. Wrong one. This one. And now it's floating on top of it. We don't really see anything, but if I cut the footage down here, and here I'm just going to grab that one. Let's pretend this is the neighborhood. And I do this. I'm just going to create a 24 frame cross. Trim clips. No, let's cancel. Yeah, here we go. And as it hits that, now the text stays. Now you'd want to do like a crossfade across this or something. Actually, I can do that. Here, I'm going to do this. Right click, crossfade. And now as it crossfades, it keeps the sign on top. And then you can add like, well, it dissolves down here. And it dissolves out to the new thing. So just imagine that instead of Subway, it said Seattle or something, right? Now that's on a white text on black background. If it was the opposite, it would be literally the same thing. We just wouldn't invert it like we did. Like for example, if I go back into my Fusion, I said go back into Fusion, and just assume that we wanted the opposite. If I just came back to my Luma here and inverted it instead, now we keep the dark parts and we've gotten rid of the white parts. I'd have to adjust my highs and lows, obviously, like this. And now we've kept only the dark parts. And I could increase the gamma. Didn't do anything. Okay. So that's the situation. And there we are. So that's the first one. The second one is a little bit trickier because the difference in luminance isn't as drastic as white on black. But it's basically the same thing. We're going to go in, open in Fusion. And what we're going to do is we are going to do the same thing we did earlier, disconnect this, add a background. That's not absolutely necessary. It's just something I do out of habit. I'm going to make the background transparent, and we're going to add a Luma key. And you see it's gotten rid of everything that's dark and kept everything that's bright. And you can see that the white and the green have a very close luminance. So that's going to be a little bit of a problem. So I'm going to start with my garbage mat. So now we're just going to scrub right through, make sure that things are good. Yeah, I don't care. That's good. That's perfect. It was super quick. Now that we've got that, let's see what that looks like. So we've got this. And right off the bat, we can tell there's a problem because the difference in luminance between the white and the green is not very high. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to come in here and maybe increase the gamma a little bit and then bring up the lows and bring down the highs, which should make the brighter parts brighter and the darker parts more transparent. And I think that's about as close as, yeah, that's looking actually pretty good. That's about it. I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of blur to try to soften up those edges. And then we're going to contract to cut that green that we brought back. And there we are. Now, I'm not a big fan of how faded that is, but let's take a look and see what it looks like. I'm going to grab this again. I'm going to bring the Broadway sign here, put it on top. And what does it look like? Media. Let's bring this down. And we're going to right click. Oh, I thought I could right click and scale. There you go. I mean, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to cut this back and we're going to bring a copy of this to crossfade 2. There you go. And how does that look? That's not looking too bad. Yeah, that's actually looking pretty good. There's no transparency to it. Oh, we've got a little bit here. So if I go in here and I go open in Fusion, right at this frame, we end up with a little bit on the side. So I'm going to grab my mask and cut that out like that. Perfect. And that's looking pretty good. A little bit on the side there. We'd have to clean that up. Now, if you wanted the sign to be a little bit brighter, we could go in, open in Fusion, and this will show you a problem that we can encounter a lot with alpha layers or transparency. I want the Broadway to actually be a cleaner white. So now that I've cut it out, I'm going to add a brightness and contrast curve, brightness and contrast node. And using this, I'm going to increase the gain to make it a little bit brighter. Now, one of the problems that you might notice, oh, right, it doesn't do it on gain. Let's say instead I wanted to increase the contrast. If I start increasing the contrast, if I do it the opposite. Here, I'm going to reduce the contrast. And the entire image is being affected, when in reality, it should be only affecting the word Broadway. This is due to how transparency in alpha functions. It's a little funky sometimes. So sometimes when you get transparency, you have to tell it, hey, I already have transparency, deal with that. And the way you can do that is many of these tools will have what's known as a pre-divide post-multiply checkmark. And if I click that, now you'll notice that it doesn't matter what I do, it will only affect the text. But if I take it off, some of these effects will affect the entire, you see, like this, the entire image. But if I do brightness all the way up and I go pre-divide post-multiply, it will only affect it because it's telling it there's transparency coming in, be aware of that. If you want to know more about that, about the pre-divide post-multiply thing and about how, the nightmare of alpha channels, Captain Disillusion did an amazing video on it years ago. I'll link to it here or maybe in the video here, like a pop-up or something. Really worth checking out. Actually, all his videos are worth checking out. They're amazing. Great production quality. And that's it. So now I've made this word brighter. It doesn't work so well because I went a little crazy. Like this white no longer matches that white, but you could maybe keyframe that effect, right? Like I want it to be normal, and then when we hit here, I want it to be much brighter. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go open Fusion, And now, starting from this point, I want it to be, I want the brightness. First of all, it's not going to be that bright, just a little bit more. Put a keyframe here. And I'm going to go, let's say here, and I'm going to put another keyframe, go back to that previous keyframe, and just set it back to 0. So the whole time is going to be the same color as the original video. And then as the transition starts, it's going to brighten up to be a bit more visible over the footage. Like this. Normal brightness, you see the white here is the same as the white there. And as we get to the crossfade, it goes brighter to help it stand out. Now this isn't, this isn't good footage for this, but you get the idea. And that's it. So that's the Luminance key. Now the Luminance key can be used for a bunch of other things too. If I go back into Fusion, here I'll make a copy of this. Right click, I'm going to reset Fusion composition. No, actually no, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to open in Fusion. And if we go back to our Luma keyer, we're currently keying off the Luminance channel, but we could key off the blue channel, the green channel, the red channel, the alpha, if there was already transparency, luminance, which is what we were using, based on saturation. So if I invert this, it's going to keep things that are saturated versus things that are not. Here, let me remove this polygon so we see it better. Right? So it's keeping things that have high saturation based on hue and depth. But for that, you need a depth map, I believe. Yeah, you see like, oh no, here, like this. Sample? I haven't used the depth, but yeah. That's what you can do. I usually use it for luminance. I've used it for things like keying out chain-linked fences off of slightly brighter background, so I could put things behind the chain link, for example. It's not perfect, but it's usually good enough to get you going to do something that basically is technically impossible, which is try to, mask out every strand of a chain link fence. And that's it. It's a great tool that has a lot of uses. People just don't know about it. Hopefully this was useful. And if you liked it, hit a like, subscribe, and all that jazz that people keep begging for. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.